In this lesson, we're going to look at slope-intercept form, which is going to actually be the second form that we're learning that equations or linear equations can be written in. So if you remember, at the beginning of this unit, we learned about standard form. And we learned that all linear equations can be written in standard form. So today we're going to learn about slope-intercept form and learn kind of what its uses are for. We'll find that slope-intercept form is really helpful with graphing equations in the coordinate grid, whereas standard form is really helpful in just determining if an equation will graph to be a line or not. So our slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M, lowercase m, stands for our slope. So we learned how to calculate the slope earlier this unit. And the b, or lowercase b, stands for your y-intercept. The y-intercept is where your graph crosses the y-axis, and we have found x and y intercepts before, so slope-intercept form specifically uses your y-intercept. I want you to notice how this form is named. It is made up of our slope and our y-intercept, our b, so m and b, so it's really just called what the equation has in it. Y and x will remain y and x, the variables in our final standard form when we write it. They'll remain the x and y to represent the infinite inputs and outputs we could get on that line. Because remember, all of our lines have infinite points. Okay, so let's start with this first example. We have y equals 3x minus 5 in slope-intercept form. So below it, I'm going to write y equals mx plus b. So you can see my y and my x remain y and x, and then I've got some numbers. So let's identify what the slope of this line is. So in the place of m, I've got a 3. So the slope of my line is 3. And remember, we can write that slope as 3 over 1 so that we have a rise and a run to count out when we're graphing this. All right, our y-intercept, the plus b part, notice ours is minus 5. We could change any subtraction to plus and negative. So hopefully you'll recognize that the y-intercept is a negative 5. So how can we use this information to help us graph? Well, you will find that slope-intercept form is very helpful for graphing, because if you have a y-intercept, which if you'll remember, this is just a point on your graph, and you have a slope, then you can count out that slope from that one point you're given and get multiple points on the line. So if I were to write the y-intercept as a point, that would be written as, 0, negative 5, the point. So let's go ahead and plot that y-intercept. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I have my y-intercept plot, and we're actually always going to plot this first and count our slope out from that point that we're given. This is the one point that we know is on that line. Okay, so that's the one we know. So we're going to start with that. So right there. And now that we have that point, we're going to count out our slope, which was 3, or 3 over 1. So that means we need to rise 3 and go run positive 1. Rise 3 again, run 1. And I'm getting multiple points on this line. Once I've got plenty of points, I'm going to connect them with a line that has arrows on the end. And so this is a really quick and easy way to graph the equation of a line. Let's see, what else did I want to say about that? I think we're good. Okay, so let's do another one. So here's our next example. I'd like for you to go ahead and practice identifying the slope, the y-intercept, and graphing this. And then when you click play, we'll check your work together. Okay, so your slope should have been -2, or you may have written that as -2 over 1. Your y-intercept was 1. So to graph it, make sure you plot your y-intercept first, and then count out your slope from there. Down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. And we connected. I do remember what I wanted to say on that last slide. If you notice, this slope was negative, so we should always check at the end that our line actually was decreasing to meet that negative slope. As we know, it should be decreasing. And if we look back at this one, the slope was positive, which did match with our graph. It was increasing from left to right. So always do a quick check at the end that it looks as you would expect it to. Okay, here's your next one to try plotting. So click pause when you're ready to check, click play. All right, so the slope was 3/4. The y-intercept is -7. So there's our y-intercept. A positive 3/4 means up 3 over 4 to the right. There we go, and we connect. We do have an increasing line from left to right matching that positive slope. Okay, so here's our next example. Now, this equation is not in slope-intercept form yet. So to do that, we need to transform our equation. And really what that's going to require here is isolating the y in our equation. If we can get that y by itself, then we will be putting our equation in slope-intercept form. So to do this, I'm going to need to divide my entire equation through by 2, giving me a 3/2 x minus 1/2 equal to y. Now, I have y isolated, however, it's not exactly in the order that slope-intercept form is written. So if you want to take a moment and put your y on the left side and then put the term with the x first, and then the minus 1/2, your y-intercept at the end, I would really recommend doing that just to have everything exactly where you're expecting it to be. Just make sure you're keeping your signs the same when you're moving things around. Okay, so the slope is 3/2 and the y-intercept is -1/2. So for this one, we're going to come down to -1/2 on our y, and so when we're counting our slope up 3, we're actually counting to the half steps to get a full one and then over 2. So there's a point. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And so that should be enough to plot our line. All right, so let's do this next practice problem. So you'll notice that this one's written in function notation rather than in the slope-intercept form with y equals. So remember what we learned about function notations, that f of x is really the same thing as y, your output. So remember f of x replaces y, and we also need to remember that slope should never be written as a decimal. So because this was written as function notation, that's why it was okay to have 0 and 2/10 x minus 1 equal to the function. However, if we're going to be graphing this eventually, we need to change this so that our that value next to x is being written as a ratio instead, so no decimals. So to do that, we're going to need to write 0.2 as a fraction. So remember, if we read that properly, that is 0 and 2/10. So 2/10 is a fraction that simplifies to 1/5. F of x can be replaced with y. So the equation written in slope-intercept form would be y equals 1/5. Oh, I forgot the x. 1/5 x minus 1. And so those two equations really are equal to each other. However, this one's written in slope-intercept form and can now be graphed. So our slope is 1/5 and our y-intercept's -1. So with that, we will plot our y-intercept and count out our slope. And I can go the other direction, counting down 1, left -5 to get points in the other direction because a negative divided by a negative. So I plotted -1 over -5 to count to the left still equals 1/5. So that's how you can go in both directions with counting out points with the slope. All right. Lastly, let's apply finding the equation of the line given the graph of it. So to write an equation of line, we know we can write them in standard form or in slope-intercept form. If you're given a graph, the easiest format to write in it is going to be slope-intercept form. What we need to do is find the slope of the line and find the y-intercept. And if we find both of those values, then we will have no problem filling into the different parts of slope-intercept form. So right here, you can see that your y-intercept is at the point 0, 1, or your y-intercept value, where it's crossing the y-axis, is at 1. So I'm going to write that as 1, knowing that that's also the point 0, 1. Now, because this one's giving us points on the actual graph, I can count these out. So down to 1, 2, over 4 means that is a rise of -2, a run of +4, giving us a slope that simplifies to -1/2. You could also use your slope formula here and just write the points out. So we have that one as 0, 1, and then this one as 4, -1, and just calculating your slope that way would be fine as well, using your slope formula. But we had the points given, so it was easy enough to just count down and over. Make sure that your slope was negative. This is a decreasing line on the grid, so that should match up. So remember, in our equation, the y and the x stay y and x, and we will fill in the slope and the y-intercept as 1. And that's the equation of this line. All right, one more. Let's see. So this one is a little difficult to tell, but I'll give you a couple nice clean line intersections here. So take a moment to find the equation of this line, and when you're ready to check, we'll hit play and go together. Okay, so here we had a y-intercept at -4 and a slope of 3/2, +3/2, up 3 over 2. We could count that again, up 3 over 2. So we should have written our equation as y equals 3/2 x minus 4. You may have also written plus a -4, and that also would be fine, understanding that plus a negative is the same thing as subtraction. Okay, there is a cute little song on YouTube that was created by some teachers to help us remember this. So if you have time and want to enjoy this little very corny dance and song that I did not make up, then enjoy. It's a very long intro. The longest intro ever.
Students, there's no need to feel down. I said, students, make a smile from your frown. I said, students, there's a new line in town. There's no need to be unhappy, students. When you do know the slope, I said, students, when you're short of your hope, you can try it. And I'm sure you will find the equation of a straight line.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b. With this formula down, now you know all the words. You can hang out with all the nerds.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b. You can draw a new line, you can work just fine. There is no need to whine. Students, are you listening to me? I said students, you have an M and a B. I said students, you can do this for us, but you've got to know it because it's a slow intercept form. I said students, it's taking over by storm. Just do it. Use the M and the B. I'm sure you will find it easy.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b. With this formula down, now you know all the words. You can hang out with all the nerds. Mx plus b. Mx plus b. You can draw a new line. You can do it just fine. There is no need to whine. Students, I was once in your shoes. I said I was down and out with the blues. I thought that I could never grasp. I thought the whole world would laugh at me. That's when my teacher taught me. She said, student, you have an M and a B. I could graph a straight line. I knew math would be just fine.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b.
What does y equal?
Mx plus b. With this formula down, now you know all the words. You can hang out with all the nerds. Mx plus b. Mx plus b.
Okay, so hopefully you'll have that song stuck in your head and the formula or slope-intercept form completely memorized. And that is the end of our lesson. I cannot X out. There we go. All right.